Hi, this is the man from Modesto. This is a dream vision that I had the other night, and I want to explain to you what this is. It was actually 3 scenes, like in 3 different planes, a middle ground, a foreground, and a background. And in this first scene, what I saw was a black bird here, and this was actually brown, and it was some kind of a mountain. It was uneven. There was some gray looking rocks in there, some protrusions, but it was mostly just all dirt. And the blackbird stood on top of that, not hovering like this photo shows, but standing on top of it. And then this, I understood, was Niagara Falls. It had the crescent-shaped form here, the Niagara River coming up, and kind of a pool here, then running off. And then behind that, in the backmost plane, were these 2 kind of planets rising up, and you could just see the tops like this, maybe even a little less than I'm showing. It was like a mist here, and they were rising up. Now they were brown with some little blue mixed in there. They looked like living planets, right? So now I began to pray. Now I woke up in that dream. I understood. I was looking at each detail carefully so that I could observe everything, because I understood I needed to remember this in order to report it. And I woke up and I wondered, what does that all mean? And when I went back to sleep, I saw the same scene again, but this time with some numbers. Here, a number 1, here the number 6, and here the number 4. So there were also numbers here, but you know what? I forgot them. So I began to pray about what these numbers mean, and what each of the things represented. And this is what the Holy Spirit explained to me, that this blackbird, which was a crow, represents death, that this number 4 represents death, and that this mountain represents all the people that serve Satan. Some of them are Satan worshippers, and they receive directions and orders from Satan, and others of them are just people like humanists or atheists that kind of serve the Satanistic agenda, but they don't really understand exactly what they're doing. Like, they don't get the full depth of it. Okay, and now this number 6, at first I thought meant it is the devil, but God said no. Actually, it's more important to explain the river first. The river represents erosion, and here it's representing the erosion of people, the erosion of societies. Or of a social base, or the morality of a people. And so when the Holy Spirit explained that to me, I remembered that the Niagara River actually is based on some shale or some kind of craggy rock that gradually breaks off, so that it actually erodes and moves back. Like the Niagara Falls 300 years ago was further to the east by, I think, like 2 miles. It's gone many miles over the life, over 6,000 years. I think it's moved like several miles, but basically this river erodes. So that's why the Niagara River and the Niagara Falls represent erosion, or rather the falls. And so now back to this 6, the Holy Spirit said that the 6 represents the presence of the devil. I thought it meant that all these people who had fallen through erosion were of the devil, belonged to the devil. The Holy Spirit said it means no, it means the devil is involved there. So all of these people have the devil in their life, probably causing them to have spontaneous anger, unhappiness, doubt, poor relationships, poor finances, everything down here, right? Now this number 1, God said this means that it's an original thing, that God created this from the beginning to stand as a symbol to speak to us. So the Niagara River is part of God's plan to communicate a message about erosion and the result. Okay, now, praying about these 2, I thought they were planets. God said, these are moons. And I said, well, why is it a moon and not a planet? And the Holy Spirit said, because a moon represents a congregation of people. It represents a congregation of people. And the reason that they were blue and stuff is to show that they're a living thing, and that it's rising up. And so I said, well, what do these 2 moons represent? And we talked about this one first, and this one is called lust for self. This one is called lust for self. Let's put that down on there. It's called lust for self. And what this means is that this is a spirit that's rising up, and it's a spirit which causes people to just go after everything they desire. Like whatever they desire, they go out and they try to receive it. If they want to eat an expensive meal, they go and do that. If they want to sleep with someone, they go and do that. If they want to marry whoever they choose without any wisdom at all, they just go and do that. If they want to buy a car beyond what they can afford, they go and do that. If they want to cheat someone in a business deal, they just do that. They do whatever they want. And the Holy Spirit told me that this includes a complete lack of discipline. There's no discipline involved in here. No waiting until you can pay for it in cash, buy it on credit. That this is a spirit that's rising up. Now this one has been around for a little while. You can see this if you look for it. Now the next one is called, it's a spirit, and it's called a desire to be worshipped. This is a desire to be worshipped, and that this spirit is going to enter in, and people will desire that others will worship them, and they will be jealous of people who are already receiving idol status, or also desiring to be worshipped. So things like American Idol feed into this, I suppose. The big prophet dynamic that's moving through the church. The big speaker dynamic that's moving through the church, that's like this. So speakers and individual leaders are beginning to be worshipped. They receive glory, they receive compensation beyond what other people who are working more harder than them. So whatever, this is a desire to be worshipped. Now, after I had prayed about this, I was really amazed, because when I first looked at it, I completely overlooked this pool. That I thought, wow, that's something I didn't look at all. But the Holy Spirit, He really writes a information-dense message. And if you've read through some scriptures sometimes, and you've seen that there are several things to be gleaned from just one story, you realize that God doesn't waste a detail. He doesn't waste a word. He chooses the word He exactly means, and He truly lets His yes be yes and His no be no. He says exactly what He means. He shows exactly what He means, and He includes information. So even yesterday, I was thinking about this again, and I thought, well, what is, if I was standing on the south side of Niagara Falls and looking this way, what would I see? And I lined it up according to how I saw this in the vision. And right over here on the map is the city of, there's a circle on the map, right? Is the city of Toronto. Toronto, Ontario. So what happened in Toronto? This is the birthplace of the NAR. This is the birthplace of the false prophets. And these wicked spirits are going to, not exclusively, but be strongly based in this NAR movement. So you're going to see these two spirits, a desire to be worshipped and lust for self. You're going to see that in Toronto. Like, look at Todd Bentley. He's already been exposed. I'm not saying that these other NAR leaders don't already have these things, but I'm saying that Todd Bentley's been exposed. He went out, he had 2 affairs, he was drinking beer before he went on stage. These are reports I've read. I didn't see any of this myself, people. But for sure we can see that he did divorce his wife and leave his family after being in the pastorhood, and married a woman from his staff. So this is a lust for self. Rather than sacrificing himself and having a dedication to his family, which would be a Jesus kind of thing, he instead went and chose a younger woman to fulfill his own lust. Okay, so these are kinds of things that we're going to see in the NAR. The rest of this, y'all can pray about it. I'm sure that the Holy Spirit will speak to us all more about this. This is the man from Modesto reminding you, as always, to pray or be defeated.